everyone, to a special edition of Off the Bench presents the Batter's Box, brought to you by Brotherhood Sports Apparel. I'm joined by the CEO and founder of OneNation Sports, Majni. Thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
So, Cliff, obviously, I'm just going to jump right into it.
Okay.
OneNation, previously GSL, now we're fast forwarded, now become OneNation.
Yes.
Obviously, has had a lot of success, especially in the, I believe we're in now year six,
You're five.
year five, year
Yep.
five.
You're
Okay,
five.
year
Yep.
five. So, with OneNation success, what would you say is contributed to that success, or has really made OneNation now OneNation?
Um, Great question. We're all softball people. I mean, from myself to Rick Burke to Bounce Moore, Joe Boziak, our foundation was softball. That's why it started. There was no other sports like baseball and fast pitch. We were softball people, and we just tried to make a difference.
And especially with how you developed, I mean, it's more, I would say you have a big grip on Ohio and obviously the Midwest area.
Sure.
And I know that you guys have aspirations to continue expanding
Yep.
more nationally and growing out that way. What would you say are your guys' challenges you guys are really encountering while trying to do that growth, or even just within One Nation in its whole?
Sure. I mean, we've had great growth. I mean, from what we started with 5 years ago, and even 9 years ago. I mean, we've done tremendous strides. The hardest thing, honestly, is finding good quality people that are dedicated. You know, especially with social media the way it is, everybody just thinks, oh, you just have to post a tournament, 50 teams show up, and you make a boatload of money. Far from it. I mean, the chances of a director making money in year one at all, if not losing money, are great. And actually, that's probably the majority. People don't understand what it takes to run successful tournaments over and over and over,
Mhm.
and the upfront cost to do that.
Gotcha.
There's a lot of risk, so it's very difficult to find that. But we've had great success of finding quality people, and we just don't take anybody. I mean,
Obviously, now being a as you guys expand and
yep,
grow, I know that one of the big areas that you guys wanted, like from a plan of attack, was really helping expand that upper level or the upper area.
yep,
And one of the big programs you guys have just recently announced is the show
correct,
coming out specifically focused more on the A, B, and C groups.
correct.
Talk to me a little bit about a little bit about that program and
Sure.
how is it different? What's different about it compared to not only what you guys have done in the past, but also compared to other sanctions, what they're doing?
Upper program's really tough. The the conference is a great thing. I mean, the conference is a phenomenal program for those players. The unfortunate part is the higher level of conference completely dominate. I mean, week in and week out, it's the same handful of teams that are winning every single event.
Mhm,
And so what we try to do is there's that middle ground there between those high level A and the high level C teams. Where do they play? If
mhm.
they go to there, they're getting the shit beat out of them,
Yeah.
honestly.
Mhm,
So what we're trying to do is give them an economical place to play,
mhm,
and we've done that. And I mean, we have 12, 13 events for them, and I think 11 or 12 of them are drivable distance. And that's good for them so they can play, get that exposure, and play at good quality parks, at good quality events. But most importantly, they're playing with other groups.
mhm,
They're not playing alone. There's
mhm,
nobody in the stands. Honestly, you go to like a conference tournament,
mhm.
there's nobody in the stands.
Right.
You know, you want to showcase your talent. So now they'll have that opportunity to play in front of their peers.
Mhm.
And I think that's pretty cool.
And I mean, this is something that uh, I will take a huge kudos to you guys. One of the big things that you guys have had a lot of success with is expanding not only your divisions within One Nation here in
Yeah.
Ohio, but really the C division. I mean, I think you guys, and
Mhm.
I think even, and I think Rick also has mentioned in a previous podcast or videos, is that you guys have one of the biggest C divisions, specifically out of any other sanction in Ohio.
Right.
My question is, one, how what has contributed to that success and that development and growth? We'll start off with that piece.
That's a painful growth because we get yelled at all the time. I know. Honestly, it's taking those D teams that that are capable of playing C
Mhm,
and forcing them to play up, and you know, and then they realize that they have like the talent, the confidence. It doesn't take a huge financial, you know,
mhm,
uptick,
right,
because you have tournaments local in Michigan,
mhm,
in Indiana, in Pennsylvania, Illinois, South Carolina. You have tournaments to play. You can't say, "Oh, I don't want to play C because there's nowhere to play." That's completely false now.
right,
They can play just as big as a schedule as any D or E team.
mhm. How about and now, obviously, a lot of success in Ohio in developing that C division. How about is there I guess because like, even like looking at from Michigan's aspect,
Right.
Michigan we do not have a ton of C teams.
No.
It's definitely there's a big area of opportunity, and
Jimmy needs to work on that.
my thing would be specifically on trying to develop more C teams. What does One Nation have any strategy behind that and trying to help promote that, or what is your in your guys' mindset? What is your steps past of trying to help develop or grow that C specifically area, as well as pushing more teams up into the upper areas?
Again, it's a tough thing to do because nobody wants to take that step.
Mhm,
Very few players want to go play there. You know, they can't play with their friends. It's too expensive. Again, it goes back to like the show concept.
mhm,
Let those C teams add a couple upper players to their roster and go play those bigger teams, they're better teams. Because I guarantee you, once they get a taste of that,
mhm,
playing good ball, playing at a higher level, they won't go back.
yeah,
I mean, my, I mean, I played for 15 years. A couple of my highlights that I never forget are losses when we jumped up as a C team and went and played in like a couple A tournaments.
mhm,
We had wars with them. Those are the highlights, man. Because I'm like, oh my god, we just played Coors Light out of Mansfield. They're a nationally ranked team. We lost by 3. We were right there, and
mhm.
and the memories you make doing that will carry over. And I mean, that's what we're trying to do there.
No, and
If that makes sense.
yeah, it makes sense, especially for from like almost like incentivizing like those players and those teams to grow. And I mean, I feel like that's the show is going to give that opportunity to give that type of so quote unquote product or experience to those not customers, but the players who are looking to try to develop or at least be able to experience it and be able to get
I
hooked
mean,
on it.
just imagine if you're from Michigan.
Hmm.
There is a more than a handful of guys that are capable of playing C or higher
Hmm.
that choose not to.
Right,
But now, if you could take those players and add a couple of your upper players with them to play, that changes their mindset.
right.
And it gives them places to play.
Oh, perfect. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm it kinda ties into in the next piece, and I'm not gonna kill it because I feel like we've, especially in the past, previous interviews, we've talked about appeals, and appeals is always a topic that, always
Next
comes
question.
up. It's I mean, my thing is, I'm just gonna touch base on it briefly, is the from One Nation's aspect, do you foresee or in terms of trying to make that consistency, do you feel you guys have a process in place in terms of trying to make it as consistent as possible or to make it to where from the players aspect
Mhm.
they think it's as fair as possible, as much as I mean, and I'm sure you would agree that no matter what you do, you're
Correct.
not gonna make everyone happy.
No, it's
So
impossible.
it's impossible.
Correct.
So how is One Nation approaching this quote unquote issue? I mean, I don't feel like you necessarily see it as heavily in the upper levels, in terms of that griping or the issues behind it.
Not so much.
You hear more griping from and you really more vocal pieces from E and D and so
Of
forth.
course.
So what's One Nation's, idea or strategy behind that or mentality behind that in terms of from the appeal aspect?
Good question. It's a very tough question. Appeals are honestly between Rick and I and bounce the worst time of the year.
Mhm.
We get yelled at, nasty emails, nasty text messages. I know I'm fat. I know I stutter. You know, da, 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 da. But I can say this: since since the start of One Nation, that was one of our main focuses.
Mhm,
Unfortunately, it's a very long and it's a very tough process.
mhm,
But coming in 2026, transparency is everything.
mhm,
I really believe that. And what we have finished and we're rolling out is something that's completely transparent. Again, we're not going to please everybody,
Mhm.
but if we can be transparent on what we're doing and why we're doing it, and this is the process, they can yell and scream all they want, but this is the process and it's very transparent. And that's what we're rolling out. I mean, now we vet everything we possibly can. There's human error, there's a human emotion in it, and we're doing everything we can to take that aspect out and make it fully transparent so everybody is on the same playing field and they know exactly what's going on.
Right. I can appreciate that,
Yeah.
especially in terms of I know it's never gonna be the perfect answer for
No,
everyone, and I get that, but
absolutely.
it's good to know that there's at least, there is you're definitely focusing on it,
Yeah.
and that you guys are looking to strategize, in not only this year, but obviously in the,
Yeah.
going future as well.
Honestly, since, and Rick can like attest to this, from day one, that was one of our main focuses. Unfortunately, I don't know nothing about IT. I can't spell IT, I don't know anything about it. And I thought, well, we just have to program this and this is how it works.
Mhm.
Rick giggles at me. Our IT people giggle at me. They laugh, but it's taken a long time for us to make it exactly the way we want it.
Right.
And we're rolling it out when it's ready. And it's ready.
Well, I was gonna say I don't I'm always from the business mindset of rather roll it out when it's ready to go and it's going to be kicking on all four cylinders rather
Correct.
than going half-assed. And
Right.
now you're going to have even more problems than when you first started with.
Correct. I didn't feel that way.
Mhm.
I rolled it out, because I was just so excited about the graphics and how cool it looks and
Mhm.
everything. But everybody reeled me in, and I am super excited, and it's just going to change the way our sport
Mhm.
looks at things,
No,
and I'm really excited.
looking forward to it. Absolutely looking
Cool.
forward to it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna pivot a little bit. We've got. I'm gonna touch base on obviously the softball Daytona 500, the Mojo coming up, but we'll touch base on that in just a moment. I do want to talk a little bit about the expansion and growth of One Nation,
Sure.
specifically
Yeah.
within nationally.
Yeah.
Obviously, Berliner is a huge pub that you guys utilize frequently.
Absolutely.
First off, give me a little bit of insight on can you divulge or give us any updates of any future expansions or updates that you guys have in terms of your growth coming either this year or next year and beyond?
Um, I can't give names
Mhm.
or parks
Mhm.
yet
Yeah,
because it's not under contract yet.
that's fair.
But this I will say, I mean, we've really focused the last 3 years or so, everything east of the Mississippi.
Mm.
That's where we really focused a lot on, and we've brought some quality people in, especially down south in Florida and Georgia, and we're working on like the Carolinas right now. We have 3 people that we're speaking to now, and as soon as we get that locked up, we have some really, really neat stuff happening out west. And that's what I'm
Awesome.
stoked about because there's a lot of softball that are
Mhm.
being played, especially in like the southwest corner and
Mhm.
the upper northwest. There's a lot of softball there, and we want to be a part of it.
I will say, like, even like when I've talked to some other teams that are from out of state, specifically the West or Southwest area, and we talk about One Nation, they're like,
Yeah,
what's One Nation? I'm like,
correct.
oh man, you guys don't know yet.
Yeah, yeah,
I will, even Jimmy Z touched base on it. It is very attractive because I mean, obviously softball is a offensive focused sport. It
absolutely
is,
is. Yeah,
and One Nation really promotes that and it expands on that. It's holistically around that.
correct.
So I think it's exactly what softball needs or would like
Yeah,
to see from a gaming aspect, from a strategy aspect.
correct.
Um, as you guys expand and
Mhm.
grow, obviously you even came out with the podcast. How's the podcast going for you guys?
Learning experience again. No, it's great. Pat Sled does a great job. I mean, he's our face of One Nation on like the media side. I mean, he's just wonderful to work with. He's got that sexy, sultry voice. He's it's fun. I we start kicking that back off. I think the middle of April.
Middle of April. I was
Yeah,
gonna
I
I was
think
gonna
so.
ask when's in the next show
Yeah.
because I haven't seen it in
Yeah,
a little bit.
once our season starts back up, then they'll start on like a monthly basis again.
Awesome,
Yeah.
cool. So the as Mojo is going along, first off, let's dive right in. I mean,
Yeah.
Mojo, the day 2500 of the softball season kicks it off with a big tournament. Obviously, you've already had a couple of tournaments. We had Myrtle just happened with Spring Nationals. With Mojo,
Yeah.
what's new this year? We'll touch base a little bit on the home run derby in just a moment, but
Sure.
what's new this year outside of that piece?
Um, we've sort of expanded our vendors. I
Mhm,
think we have 12 vendors coming in now.
mhm,
We really want to give the players a great experience on, like, especially with all like the bat vendors, the Micans, the Louisvilles, the Pure,
mhm,
the short porches, the stick bats. We want to bring all those people in. We have tons of apparel coming in. But the big change, of course, was the home run derby.
mhm.
We've tweaked things there for a reason, and
Can I
should be fun.
can I ask a little bit why we got away from the
Yeah.
home run derby?
Okay. One, it's terrible to run, and we all hate it. No, but honestly, it was time just for a small change.
Mhm,
This is our 13th or 14th year. Can't
mhm,
remember. 14th, 13th, and it just needed to change. So, with all the all-star events that are happening all around, I thought it would be a really good idea to have like a Ohio versus the world type
mhm,
thing, and to showcase again our C through our A players,
mhm,
locally in the state of Ohio, and then bringing in good name, really big name coaches to bring people in from all over the country.
mhm.
Especially our women's USA team is women coming in from California, New Mexico,
Oh,
Washington.
I looked at the list. You guys have a really diverse list. It's not only from the ladies, but also the men's too. You got a
Yeah,
really diverse list for both
it's
of
going to be
those
fun,
teams.
honestly, and it just needed to change.
Mhm.
Next year's home run derby is going to be off the chains. Like
Oh, wow.
phenomenal idea that it's already been approved with a lot of people, and I'm not saying it
No, I was gonna
because
say, all right.
every director in the association will be running it next week. But it's just going to be off the chains good.
So it's not necessarily that you're getting completely away from the
No,
WWE. It's just a matter of change of pace for this year,
change of pace,
and then
change of
almost like a
pace.
reset for
Absolutely.
what 2026.
Yeah.
It's a nice little teaser then. All right, I got you. So, and obviously, the Ohio team is being led by Bobin by Bob.
See it.
Yep.
Yep.
All right. So
Yep.
that's and I saw that he's got a handful of really solid Ohio talent on that
Yeah.
team.
Oh
So
yeah.
it should be a fun game to watch.
That's gonna be a lot of home runs hit, a lot of runs being scored.
One other point I wanted to highlight on, and it's conveniently because we're gonna be there as well, is Media Row.
Yeah.
Bringing that out, talk to me a little bit about the idea behind you guys actually coming out with a
Yeah.
Media Row for Mojo
Yeah.
and what that's all about.
Um, we at One Nation, we love what someone like yourself is doing.
Mhm,
We love the podcast. And it's not about exposure for us, it's exposure for our sport.
mhm,
It's exposure for our players. And to have the opportunity to have a company like yours come in and hopefully a couple others, and to give that exposure to our softball players to help grow our sport.
mhm.
Because most people think, oh my God, it's a beer league. You guys are a bunch of washed up athletes. This. First of all,
There's a lot of us looking at it. Some truth to that. Some truth.
well, with the media we have now and what's at our fingertips,
Mhm,
it needs to be exposed for what it really is. It's a great sport. It's a fun sport, and it needs to be treated that way.
mhm. How about in terms of, well, the obviously you're expanding Mojo
Yeah,
and you have some growth that are going that's going that you talked about a
yeah,
little bit from a national aspect.
yeah.
You guys are also doubling down, I feel, really knocking out the World Series format, especially from your World Series piece. Talk to me a little bit about of what you guys is there anything different you have planned for World Series coming up in 2025 and or how are you guys trying to make that a little more different or at least from the players experience?
What I mean, what good question? It's hard to change.
Mhm,
I mean, the thing that we're trying to do is try to give a better weekend experience. Um, we're trying to move our less classes per weekend,
mhm,
so there's not as a rush.
mhm,
And you can sort of take in that atmosphere. Because I mean, we could push 160 teams in a day and a half at Berliner.
mhm,
Do we really want to do that? The answer is no. We want to, maybe cut that back and have another weekend at Berliner where we can put more teams in and give them a better experience.
mhm.
So really, we just want to slow play it a little bit and give them time to enjoy the city of Columbus, city of Myrtle Beach,
Mhm.
or some other areas that like we're moving into, and have them have a fun weekend out of it. It's
Right.
not at the ballpark grinding the entire weekend. It's soaking in everything.
Right.
If that makes sense to you.
No, it makes perfect
Yeah.
sense. I mean, you guys also have a lot of tournaments that you've been able to utilize, not only in Columbus, you also utilize Cincinnati and be able to leverage those places. Do you foresee, do you, at least from the near future, is kind of Berliner going to be continue to be the central hub for you guys in the future, or do you guys foresee potential expansion elsewhere?
Um, as long as they have us, it will be our hub. I mean, there's no other park in the country that can host these size of events.
Hmm.
You know, if you were to have a 100-team tournament in in any other park in the country, you're there 4 or 5 days.
Hmm.
Honestly, here, honestly, it's cheaper on like the players
Yep.
because we could put 100 teams easy in 2 days, and that's not even pushing times.
Right.
Now it's difficult to have umpires and you know, I challenge anybody to see what goes on behind the
Yeah.
scenes with trying to find umpires for these
Hmm.
type of events.
Right.
But um, you know, Berline's been a great partner with us.
Mhm.
We were there when they had their first turf field to everything like they have now,
Yeah.
and I felt like we were a big part of that. And as long as they keep having us, we will 100% stay there.
I mean, we touched base a little bit on it with Jimmy Z
Mhm.
of, and something that we need to work on from a Michigan softball aspect of needing more turf fields. Because I'm sorry, the turf fields, especially in the Midwest,
Yeah,
that's a game changer. Because now the weather elements do not impact you as heavily, and you can power through a lot of those tournaments rather than a lot of them that where we have them up in Michigan, they're in dirt fields, and even get a little splash of rain. Sometimes you got to call it.
it's over. Yeah.
Yeah.
You have to remember on like the business end, I mean, as like a player, I feel the same way.
Yeah.
I agree 100%. But at the end of the day, it's a business. Look how short your season is up there.
Yeah.
I mean, it's tough because they need a 12-year,
Right.
I mean a 12-month
And you're gonna,
to
and you're gonna say you have to show that revenue to be able to compensate for the basically the peaks. I mean, or the lack of peaks. You're gonna have
yeah.
a peak in the season, then
Mhm.
you're gonna have a huge lull, and you're gonna have enough
Yeah.
revenue to carry you over through that
And
lull. So
when that 4, 5, 6 month lull is scary for most
yes.
investors,
Oh no.
I mean, honestly,
It's not a cheap investment up front either. I know
no,
that those are very
no,
expensive, to at least from the upfront costs. But I mean, we're hoping,
God,
thankful,
it would be a great thing.
be great.
It would be a great thing. Baseball and fast pitch would love it too.
Oh, I can see the little leagues would absolutely, I know,
Yeah,
eat that up, but obviously that's hopefully down the road that something
yeah.
can come to
I'm
fruition.
sure one day.
One day,
I'm
one
sure
day.
one day. I mean, think about Berliner. I mean, they start the first week in March and they run through November.
Mhm.
I mean, so there's not a lot of dull time there. Trust me, in time they will be running stuff.
Yeah. How about in terms of this specific Mojo tournament, do you
Mhm.
guys have any updates or announcements that are coming up? Either whether you can announce now or any updates or announcements that you have coming in the future that players should be looking out for.
No, I think our bracket's coming out next week sometime.
Yep.
But no, it's status quo. We're real excited. We've scaled it back the last few years a little bit just to make it a better experience.
Mhm.
So you're not at the park till, or we're not at like the park till 2 a.m. But no, I mean we scaled it back to try to give a real good experience, fun, laughter, family affair type
Yeah.
thing. So yeah, no, status quo. We just keep pushing.
Well, again, I'm continuing to be impressed with One Nation specifically and how you guys are handling it in terms of giving a lot more events. I mean, Jimmy Z is killing it in Michigan in terms of how many
He's a
events
monster. He's a
he's
good
giving
dude.
for us. So
So,
he's definitely helping One Nation have a huge presence in
yes.
Michigan. I'm looking already. I know my team's already looking forward to Mojo, so it should be a lot of fun. Weather,
Something. It's like that something.
there.
Yeah.
But Cliff, thank you so much for joining. I
Yeah,
truly
thank you for
appreciate.
coming on, man.
I
Thank you so
really
much.
appreciate
Thank you.
joining. Make sure you guys, if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe and follow the Off the Bench page, where we have our in-game streaming and more. Also, we have a lot of other interviews like this on our YouTube page, so we appreciate it if you could go ahead and like, share, and subscribe. Outside of that, this is Mike from Off the Bench in the Batters Box. We'll have more content coming to you for Mojo as well as Mojo Week and more interviews. We'll see you next time. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.